questions, to make comments. If you can, if you're on one of the social media platforms like X, please share out the link to the threadcast. Let's try to get more people involved. And we will be starting the show
here on TikTok. So if you're coming, you're welcome. Don't forget it's the Lion's Den. Oh yes. Don't forget it's alright. Okay. So don't forget it's the Lion's Den and we're gonna be rocking it hard over here. Oh yeah. It's the Lion's Den.
All right, everybody. It is now 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and whatever the correlated time is in your associated time zone. In other words, it's time to start the Lion's Den. As I just stated, there is on in Leo.io. There is a threadcast that accompanies this space. If you want to ask questions, if you want to make comments, if you want to engage with other members of the community, it is there for you. There also may be some accompanying references, such as a couple images that I just dropped that we will be covering during the show. What we're going to talk about today is, well, really, this is just an ongoing series of advancements made by Leo. And there's two areas I've been focusing on primarily. Well, for months and months and months, I've been focusing on AI, the discussions about AI, LeoAI, and over the last month, maybe a little longer, 6 weeks, there have been a series of developments by the Leo team regarding LeoDex. And that actually, as I've shown over the last few weeks, is interwoven into this idea of AI agents, which are still down the road. But this is laying the foundation, putting pillars in place for Leo, and in my view, really enhancing the value of Leo. Again, as always, I said value, price, markets are a different mechanism, but at least the value is being built, in my opinion, not only based upon what is being developed from a technological standpoint, but also things such as feeder systems, data. All of this is going to merge in the future into or merge in a way that I think makes the Leo platform potentially very, very valuable. And Cal is on the call to start. I know a lot of times he gets interrupted, but if you want to, Cal, send a speaker request at some point and jump in. You obviously know a lot more of the details about LeoDex as compared to myself, so you might be able to add some insight or connect some dots that I don't necessarily have. Uh, the best way to start off is before we get into LeoDex, Andresino, as usual, dropped a bunch of different questions, and let's take some of them uh, and knock them out because I think it segues into some of these discussions rather well. One question is, have you seen Ask Rafiki? Ask Rafiki, and or have you heard anything about it? I have no clue. So I don't know what Ask Rafiki is. If anybody knows, maybe put that in the threadcast. I have no idea. um, let's see. Question: would there be any benefit to build and deploy an AI agent that takes votes from the community and uses the rewards to do automated trading on LeoDex in order to create more volume? The benefit of using rewards in is that the community then will choose if they want to support it or not. Um, Without going into the specifics of that, I think that it's best just a conceptual framework. The potential of AI agents is only limited by your imagination. And the monetization of AI agents follows a similar pattern. So there can be done to incorporate rewards and utilize them in some type of incentivization, or
Give
utilize
me
that
just a
money from
moment.
the rewards
Mr. Lionsden,
for other
give me
purposes, such as you say, tying
minutes.
into
As we are
LeoDex,
working with
setting it up for
Mr.
trading. There's a lot of different things you can do. You could do an AI agent. I know Cal's been mentioning the arbitrage opportunities that have arisen lately on LeoDex with Hive and HBD. And you could develop an agent, which agent, another word for agent is just bot. It's just some automated task that is created. So arbitrage bots are AI agents. An AI agent is a bot that is trained to answer your emails. Uh, so when you hear that, it's just some type of automation. So if you have an arbitrage agent that was trading LeoDex. You could do what Andersino suggested, something to the idea of taking those rewards or some rewards and utilizing that to fund trading for, let's say, arbitrage opportunities on LeoDex, which obviously, if done successfully, then there will be a profit generated from it, which then could be also tokenized, if you think of it this way, and distributed among token holders if you wanted to do that. Or it could be used to fund liquidity pools. Or it could be used, if it was an individual, just to fill his or her wallet. Whatever you want to do. But the idea of volume is a key point, and that's something we get into LeoDex in a little bit more detail. We are going to see volumes explode in the agentic age. And my reasoning on that is if we go back 50 years into the 1970s and we look at the volume in the stock market and we look at how trading was done, how almost all trades were initiated by humans, and most of the trades were actually done by humans. As compared to today, where 85% of all trades on the stock market are actually initiated by computers, and 100 of them are processed by computers. You don't have human traders processing trades anymore. It's all done by autonomously. It's done by computers. So what happened in the volume starting in the 1980s when computerization and the computerization digitization of markets really started to take off? What happened in the volume from the 1970s to today? It skyrocketed, and it's at every level. It's people going into their TD Ameritrade or their Schwab or their T. Rowe Price or their Morgan Stanley account and buying it. Scott Trade or whatever the hell people use. But then you also have high frequency trading. You have every single brokerage firm under the sun that has their own trading system, automated trading system. And now you even have smaller firms and you have individuals who have designed this stuff and developed this stuff. And it's only going to be accelerated when you start to incorporate AI agents and the potentiality that any non-technical person can go to an AI model and say, build me an agent that does arbitrage trading for crypto.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. If you just
And, do it for
if you're
LeoDex
trading,
and
you're
do it for
welcome.
this and put in
Don't
different
forget
parameters
it's
and you
Lions
get the
Den.
code spit
Yeah,
out.
right on the Leo threads, so you're
So
free to engage. You
I
can
think what
also message
Andresino's
us
doing
for
with the idea of
updates.
AI agents
Mr.
and,
Lions Den.
you know, you don't need to get into the particulars, but think along those lines of what can be generated. And this could be done by either as a suggestion, feedback to the Leo team, and maybe Cal will see it and say, hey, something good that we can build. Or maybe some individual builds it, as we see with Mike possibly and Ahmed and other people who are starting to build their own AI agents tied to Leo. Okay, do you think the amount of data we had added using AI summaries have affected LeoAI in a significant way? And can you explain why tagging the content helps a vector database? Okay, those are two separate questions. First off, with AI summaries, if you didn't know, anybody can use AI summaries. No longer do you need to subscribe to My Possibly. He opened it up, I think it was earlier this week. So anybody can post a YouTube video. You just go grab the link from YouTube, you post it in a thread. Underneath, you put exclamation point summarize, and it will summarize that video. Underneath, it'll put a series of threads that basically it's like a thread storm. So you have the video, and underneath, you'll have an AI generated summary. That is threads that are posted on the blockchain. It's in the Hive database, and that's something that is obviously feeding Leo's vector database. This does a couple things. First off, it adds to the database, it adds to the content, it pulls the transcript of a video, which is on YouTube, and it summarizes it on Leo, democratizes the data. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, obviously, it adds a video to Leo AI. Leo AI, when you post a video from YouTube onto Leo, Leo is now the viewer. Somebody can look at it from Leo. Now, the video itself is not a Leo video, obviously. It's not a three-speak video. It's a YouTube video, so it's all in the repository of YouTube, but people can view it from the UI. So now he asks about tagging the content to help the vector database. It helps it helps not from a data standpoint, but what tagging the video does, don't forget, vector databases serve many different purposes, and they provide a lot of different utilities. And one of the main use cases of vector databases, what gets created from them, is recommend engines. This is where vector databases are very powerful for creating recommend engines, which obviously if you go to Netflix or you go to YouTube and you watch a video, what does it say? We recommend this. Other people who have viewed this also like this. You go to Amazon, people who bought this product also bought that product. These are recommend engines. So one of the reasons why I tag the YouTube videos, in addition to put summarize, I put tags, is for the recommend engine, because then it will help when it starts to look at this content and it says something like technology. Well, it'll link up to other technology. If it talks about JP Morgan, it links up to other things, JP Morgan, banking, finance, whatever. And so this helps the AI engine or the AI database, the vector database, to use the AI as a recommend engine. So the more data you input, the more you give it, the more the system can better assimilate that data and give out recommendations. That's the big reason why I tag the videos, is because of the recommended. Obviously, right now, coming out of the video itself, that thread that has the video in it, it's not really feeding the database much. Now, it may at some point, if the database, and it's probably not an if anymore, when the database becomes multimodal and all of a sudden it's cost effective enough for the data to actually be extracted from the voice recording. But right now, anything outside of text is still a bit expensive. But you see the larger models, Meta, Grok, Gemini by Google, all of these, they're multimodal. So all the Instagram pictures that people have uploaded over the years, that's being fed into Llama. Anything you post on X, that's being fed into Grok. Whether it's a video, whether it's a video or an image, text, it's all being fed into Leo. The only thing that's being fed in at this point is the text. It's pulling it from the Hive blockchain. On the image server, those will be cost effective to feed them in. What type of AI agent would you build if you had the knowledge? Um, right now, the first layer I would do is I would do AI agents that started to post a lot of data. So I would build AI agents that could put in news items. I would build AI agents that would bring in pricing feeds. For example, stock market, crypto pricing, all of that stuff. And I would start to really put together a number of agents that could autonomously fill the data with pertinent data. Because I think, data is the new oil. We need to build the oil well as quickly and as big as we can. And then once you have that, you can then build other AI agents on top that actually utilize that data. So, for example, if you're getting pricing feeds in there, now all of a sudden you can start to build AI agents along with other investing type data. Now you can start to build AI agents that can actually be quote unquote investing type agents where they can give recommendations, where they offer up suggestions. They can take the information that's out there about their stuff, and that then they can start to make recommendation suggestions because all of that data is fed and on the Hive blockchain. And so that's the first thing I would do to really, I mean, at this point, the effectiveness of AI agents is going to come back down to the data. And yes, there is the underlying data that is in LeoAI from Meta, which is good, which is terrific. That's, I mean, Meta has as much data probably as anybody else other than Google. But it still is lacking in many ways, and you do have that time lag where when that data, when the model was trained, that's as far as it goes for Llama. Now, Llama's running their own vector databases. So every time somebody puts up a new picture on Instagram, every time somebody puts up anything else on Facebook, that's being fed in. And if you're using Llama itself, you got access to that data. But the model Leo AI used to train, that only goes back to when they pulled it and what it was trained up to. Now, that's why we run our own vector database, and being able to prompt Leo AI, you will get answers that are most recent if the information was put into Leo or whatever else they pull. And they may be pulling from created comments, they may be pulling from many different areas. I don't know where exactly they're pulling their data from, but there's a bunch of different places you can get that. Do you think Leo AI will know so much about you that we can use it as a type of co-host when it is live? Would it be cool to be able to ask you questions right in the threadcast to help with the experience? The answer to all of that is it is possible. The possibility of AI, where all this is going, the possibility for personalization. We talked about it last week in digital identities. Your digital identity right now on Hive is your username. Your digital identity cannot be zapped. It cannot be wiped out. Your digital persona cannot be killed. Try that on X. Try that on Meta. Try that on Google. We know damn well they can wipe your ass out in a heartbeat. What happens? All of that data that you put up there over all those years, you don't have access to it. You no longer exist. Your profile is blocked. You can't do that on Hive. So anything that anybody posts is live. It's there. It's archived. It's open. It's accessible. Unless, of course, you lose your key. Then you're kind of SO. But outside of that, Leo can't stop you. The witnesses can't stop you. Nobody can stop you from accessing the blockchain. As long as you have resource credits, that's the only contingency. You need to have resource credits to be able to write to the blockchain. Outside of that, there's nothing to stop you. So over time, the more that you are doing and the more that's tracked, and in this instance, when I say what's tracked, is activities that go to the blockchain. Now, it may evolve where Leo AI, as an example, Leo sets up certain things on their server, let's say through LeoDex. And where they're able to, through your username, through your interaction with that, they're able to compile more data and add to your quote digital identity, your profile. That certainly it could be possible. Now, in terms of the ability to have a thread with your digital persona, yeah, that's going to be possible. I mean, we already see with Google and Notebook how they have the capability of feeding in just different types of manuscripts and information and books and whatever, and then have that done as like a podcast. All of that's going to come into play, and then now you get into digital avatars and things of that nature, which of course are getting easier and easier and easier and more realistic, and be able to do AI. I mean, there'll be a point in time where I could have a show with myself and three other AI hosts, or I don't even need to be there. The AI hosts just handle it. There's going to be a time where my AI agent will go on a Zoom call and I won't even be there. Seeker, LeoDex is catching more and more attention. I know Web3 Labs DA is really looking into it, and they bring it closer to the Hispanic community. I don't know what Web3 Labs is, but this is what, as I replied to Seeker, this is the value. When you have a pillar in place, when you have a LeoDex in place, other entities can look at it, take and use it, and incorporate it into what they're doing. So when I mention an AI agent, it doesn't come from Leo. An arbitrage bot could be set up by this Web3 Labs.da. It could be the chain flip people. It could be somebody from Dash. Who knows? Anybody can do that. Caleb Marble, as a reminder, if you don't like listening to this on Space, he is streaming this on TikTok. So you can listen to it on TikTok. Leo Strategy will be voting the engagement. Good to see it come by. Cal dropped a couple things. Those are LeoDex related, so I won't get into that. Oh, Cal, you sent a request, so let me approve them. Cal, hear me?
Hey, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. I just read
Cool.
your thread, so you're on your way to a meeting. So maybe if you want to jump in, you put up a couple threads about LeoDex, and I put up a couple screenshots that you had sent me regarding LeoDex teasers, which I posted because I saw you put them on X also, so you were throwing them out there. What do you have to say about LeoDex and some of where it stands as compared to Tuesday when you talked about it, and these screenshots, which are, teasers where you were putting in the swap of 2 Bitcoin to Ethereum, and you had a couple different choices there and routes to go and some other different things and a lot of interesting stuff. So what do you have to say?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Sorry if there's any noise. I'm just driving to a meeting right now. But yeah, the screenshots were from LeoDex, the new version that's obviously not available yet. So we've been working on this really, really massive update for LeoDex, which includes a lot of back end work and front end work. The vast majority of the work is on the back end. What we're actually building, if anyone's really familiar with, kind of like the Thorchain ecosystem, there's a project called ThorSwap, really the biggest interface for all the DEX protocols to date. And they've built something called SwapKit, which ended up spinning off to its own team, which is a whole separate story. But we actually have been kind of building our own version of SwapKit. So, you could tentatively consider it like LeoKit. And essentially what it is it's an entire back-end framework for quoting and routing swaps through the four major cross-chain swapping protocols that are currently live, and then obviously any future ones can be integrated over time. So right now that's Thorchain, Maya, Chainflip, and Rango. So as of right now, LeoDex only allows Maya swaps, Maya protocol swaps. And with this kind of LeoKit update, we're going to be once it goes live, it'll immediately allow not just Maya, but also Thorchain, Chainflip, and Rango. So, Thorchain has, its own kind of asset matrix, a bunch of different assets that Maya doesn't have. Chainflip has assets that those two don't have, like Solana assets, for example. And then Rango is actually really interesting. They include even centralized exchange assets as potential routes. So with this update, we actually can support almost any crypto in the world. So we actually have to make our own list of stuff, that we potentially don't want to support, at least not on the front end, in terms of like the immediate token list, just because of data load. Because it's probably 3,000 plus cryptos could be traded with this update. So it's a really big, the gist of it is it's a huge update because it allows us to tap into any protocol that does cross-chain swapping, and it does it all kind of at the same time. So then we don't have to go, like the initial plan was, okay, we're going to launch LeoDex for Maya, then we'll integrate, Thorchain next, Chainflip, and then Rango. Can you still hear me? It says my connection was lost.
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Oh, okay. So it essentially will allow us to integrate all of the protocols simultaneously, which is obviously a great thing, in terms of long-term development. So it definitely means that it takes longer to do this initial release, but then once we've got it, we've got all four major protocols integrated. And if you look at that screenshot, what you'll see is the way our LeoKit backend works is it quotes the same. So like if you put in that screenshot, you put 2 Bitcoin as your input, which is obviously like a $200,000 swap. And then your output is Ethereum. And then what LeoKit does is it actually simultaneously quotes it across every single protocol. So, Chainflip, Thorchain, Maya, and Rango simultaneously. And then it gives output options on the right side. And it says, the first option is the cheapest route. Second option is the fastest route. And then it shows you the other protocol options if you'd rather look at those routes. So for example, in that screenshot, you actually see it says 235 routes. That means that there's 235 different route possibilities to actually do that swap. And LeoKit is able to route through any of those 235 options. So it's automatically sorting all those options for you and then telling you which one's going to be the cheapest and which one's going to be the fastest. So this actually, this really turns LeoDex into what we all kind of want it to be, which is you can go, like, anytime you want to trade any crypto asset, no matter what wallet you're on, no matter what asset you're inputting and outputting, you'll be able to go to LeoDex and immediately plug in and just know that the asset that you want to trade is already there.
Yeah, that's big because basically what you're doing is, especially with, I think you said Rango, I might be mistaken, but Rango tying into the centralized exchanges, or one of them into the centralized exchanges, for example, Coinbase or Binance or whatever. Basically, you're accessing fiat then, because that's how people get from their Bitcoin or whatever. Most people get from their Bitcoin to their dollars or their euros or their yen or whatever the currency is. So now you have a situation where you're basically providing an on and off ramp to fiat, correct?
Yeah, I think it can potentially, potentially be used for that. I haven't tested any like fiat routing because I'm not sure what Rango's plan is in terms of fiat, because I know there's a whole, regulatory framework that might come with that. But what LeoDex does, and I think this is a good reminder of what LeoDex actually is. LeoDex is just a tool that portals into these 4 different cross-chain protocols. So, LeoDex doesn't do any actual like trading or anything on its own. It's literally just an interface tool to these different protocols. So, from a regulatory standpoint or however you want to look at it, all it is an interface tool. So if Rango adds, something like that, it's, essentially the tool can portal into whatever Rango allows on its APIs, and then it's up to Rango to handle all of that. In a very similar way to, like how the Hive blockchain works. Inleo and, PeakD and eCNC are all different interface tools for the Hive blockchain. And the way they interact with Hive is kind of up to the front end, but the way the actual data and everything is handled on the back end is all up to Hive and the decentralized, network. So I think that that's a really important distinction when it comes to these decentralized exchanges, because I know that there's a lot of questions, related to these things. Obviously, regulations in general have lightened up a lot. Like Coinbase just had their SEC case dropped against them in the U.S. So in general, it's definitely getting better. But what I really enjoy about the DEX space, especially this cross-chain DEX space, is that we're all just building tools and interfaces, and then all the back end is handled by the cross-chain DEX.
Yeah, and when you have a something like a Coinbase or a Binance, if you could take, any asset, go to LeoDex and say, here is the address for Coinbase for, USDC ARB, let's say, and you put that in there as a destination instead of it going into your control wallet or whatever the heck you're using, and then you have to go into that wallet and send the ARB across to Coinbase. You could actually just drop it essentially into your Coinbase account or your Binance account or whatever. And then once you got your USDC in one of them, then you can swap it into your fiat or whatever the heck you're going to do on that platform. So I could see that being a very, very valuable service and going one step further towards, you're not going to be trading into fiat because obviously that gets into the regulation that you said and the licensing and all that other stuff. But who cares? I mean, Coinbase handles that, Binance handles that, whatever the centralized exchange is, they have to adhere to that. You get USDC, USDT, any of them on there, then, then you can swap it for fiat or whatever you need to do tied into your bank account.
Yeah, exactly. I think the key for us is that we're operating as a tool, and what these base layer protocols do is kind of up to them, and then we're able to just kind of offer that good user experience that we've like the way I like to frame it is like what is the differentiator of LeoDex in a space where there's 50 competing UIs that are all trying to get trading volume, and I think the differentiator for LeoDex is that you've got the Leo team behind it that has, spent the last 6 years building the best possible interface for the Hive blockchain in terms of UI and user experience. And now we're taking all of that and we're applying it to this world of cross-chain trading.
Yeah, there was one question here that I'll have to throw to you. Brando asked, so does that mean that we can use wallets like Rabby and Phantom in the future with LeoDex?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're gonna start adding, so as part of this update, we're gonna start adding a bunch of new wallet options. So right now we've got Key Store, which is kind of my favorite one to use there. Control, which is also really nice to use. We've got MetaMask, and then obviously the Hive keychain wallet for anything that's Hive related on LeoDex. So part of this update is actually adding another backend to the LeoKit side of things, which allows us to do any wallets. So similar to how we're adding like 4 protocols simultaneously, we'll be adding dozens of wallet options simultaneously, including like hardware wallets like Ledger, Trezor, and other options like that.
Yes.
Okay, because of time constraint, I know there's a question here that
Yeah,
is
this,
UI and it's not LeoDex,
Predicciones
but
para Bitcoin el día.
talking about multilingual features added on in Leo, why is it that it doesn't transcribe contents written in other languages to preferred one a user might want? Do you understand that question, Cal?
Yeah, basically, why are threads and blog posts essentially not translated? So, phase one of the multilingual update is that the menu options of the UI are translated into all those different language options, and it uses AI to do it. So, we're actually using LeoAI to train and transcribe the menu options. Phase two of the multilingual update is going to be the content itself. So, it's kind of similar to how X works, where I don't know if you guys have used it, but when there's a post that's in a different language, and like let's say your default is English, and you see a post that's in Spanish, there's like a blue text underneath it that says translate, and if you click that blue text, like the content of that post on X. So the new update is going to allow you to click a button that says translate, and then it'll translate it using AI, using Leo AI to translate it. And the current plan, so there's a cost to that. Can you still hear me?
You faded out for a second. You just lost that last part.
Okay. So there's a credit cost to obviously doing all these translations. So the menu you only have to translate once. So obviously there's no cost. There's no marginal cost to doing that. So we're able to translate the menus once, and then obviously everybody gets access to it. When it comes to posts, when you translate a post, let's say that and it depends on the route. So kind of similar to, if you want to think about it similarly to LeoDex, there's essentially a translation route. So if you're going from English to Spanish, that's one route, but you might also go from Spanish to German. So that's a whole other route. So essentially, when one post has been translated on a particular route, if someone else comes in later and wants to translate the post from the same route, it'll be automatic because there's no extra credit cost. But if it's that post specifically hasn't been translated through whatever route you're trying to do, it's like a new cost. So the way we're going to be kind of going about that, and this is all part of the phase two update, is if you're not premium, you'll get up to 10 translations per day. And if you are premium, you'll get unlimited translations, or at least a very high limit. So you can't obviously just go through and translate every post, but you'll have a very high limit. You'll never really reach the limit under normal usage. So that's kind of one of those premium tie-ins to things, just because you do have that credit limitation. But yeah, the translation of content is obviously a little bit more tricky, but it is something that we're kind of 80% done on, and then some of the nuances around it are things that we need to figure out. But what's kind of interesting about it that I don't think any other platform has done, including X, is if you write a reply to that user, we can make it so that it auto transcribes your engagement with each other back and forth. So let's say that you, Task and Sunseeker, are talking with each other. You make a thread in English, and then she replies in Spanish, and then you reply back to her in English. It'll transcribe all those posts back and forth for each of you, so that she reads it in Spanish and you're reading the whole conversation in English. So I think that's a really interesting AI lingual use case that I haven't really seen on any other platforms.
Hey, Cal, what do you call somebody who speaks only one language?
That's a great question. I don't know.
American.
That's a good one. Yeah, I don't. Americans don't even speak English; they speak American.
Well, we improved on the Brits. What can we say? Where was this? Somebody asked. Oh, Yeah, there's an important point to all of this, whether it's the translation, whether it's Leo AI, all of this there's a cost, people, and I presume, Callan, maybe I'm speaking on your behalf here, and tell me if I go outside the I'm speaking out of school, but simple logic tells me a lot of the implementation factor is based upon the cost. So yeah, the capability to implement all of this in there today could be possible from a technical standpoint, but from a financial standpoint, it's not possible. Now, what is cost prohibitive today, the way AI training and the way compute is going and inference is going, will not be cost prohibitive in 6 months. So something like that, translating everything instantly in 6 months or a year, may be cost effective. Today, it's not. So you have to kind of pick and choose your battles and what features you want to roll out. And when you start to look at recommend engines, you start to look at the eventual chatbot, you start to think about maybe image generation, you start to think about translators, you start to think about AI agents maybe interacting into this stuff. And it's like next thing you know, maybe some tied to LeoDex. And next thing you know, you get your inference bill and it's like the GDP of Guatemala, and you're like, what the hell just happened? So how do you go about with that and deciding, okay, these are the features we're going to do? And obviously, I see that some of it's okay, we're going to limit it for everybody, but if you're paying, we'll give you more access to this because obviously you're paying into the system and you make a financial commitment each month. How do you navigate those waters?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a case by case thing where like you said, some things are easy to see that they're doable now, and then other things will likely be doable later. Um, so I know things like this multilingual update. We've like estimated the inference costs. And I think we found that if there's about 10,000 translations per day, the cost will be under $100 a month, which is obviously not bad. So, when you create some sort of limitation curve around being premium, obviously it takes like 10 premium users to cover that $100 a month cost. So I think as we kind of do like each individual use case, we just kind of have to reevaluate, the cost of training and inference, like a case by case, reasonably predict that it'll drop in half over the next few years or less. So that's kind of how we've been approaching a lot of this stuff. One thing and I know you mentioned AI agents before I jumped on, and I got to go in a few minutes, but one thing I'm really looking at for AI agents, and I'm planning on putting out some more information about this, is offering more bounties to you guys, the Leo community, to build more AI agents, because we're adding an AI agents section to the Leo UI. And these agents don't necessarily need to be built on Leo AI. They could be built using anything. And I know one thing you've talked a lot about is just bringing more data to in Leo and to the Hive blockchain. And AI agents are a fantastic way to, obviously increase the data throughput to the UI. So, and I see Ahmad Manga's in the audience. He's been working with me on a specific AI agent. And I've also worked with Mike Possibly on some stuff, and I've just been kind of offering them like Leo bounties to do this work for me, and really for the community. So I'm starting to get a little bit more interested in maybe just open sourcing all of that and saying, hey, like, let's set up an open source GitHub, just for Leo AI or AI agents in general. They don't have to be on Leo AI. Like I know some are on Venice and whatever. So we can really build them on any protocol you want. But then we can like spit out our agent ideas to the GitHub, and then offer bounties to anyone who wants to implement them. So the way I kind of see this working is, you mentioned an AI agent idea around like coin tracking prices. So like, let's say someone builds, a coin tracker AI agent that posts threads with the current Bitcoin price once every hour. Let's say that that's your idea task, and then you post up a GitHub request for someone to build that, and then you say, hey Cal, can you review this, and then offer a bounty. How much would this be worth if someone built it? And then I can take a look and I can say, okay, well, if someone's willing to build this for 1,000 Leo or 10,000 Leo or whatever, I'll fund them to build it and post their repo on that GitHub open source. And then now we've kind of got Leo like funding all these different agent ideas, because at the end of the day, agents are getting really easy to build. Some are obviously a lot more complex than others, but even people that have no coding experience are starting to build agents. And I think that there's a lot of potential if we open source it to the community, because obviously there's a lot already on the plate for the team, and just say, hey, the community task has, all these different agent ideas, but may not have the time or resources or knowledge to put them together. But you could put a GitHub request together and then ask me to put some of my Leo towards a bounty. And then we can find someone like Ahmad Manga or Might Possibly or someone else in the community who is building AI agents, and then they can, fulfill that bounty. And next thing the Leo team adds the AI agents page, and we could be having 100 agents a month getting built out on InLeo. So this is something I've been kind of considering, but really turning it over to you guys to build out the agents.
Yeah, and then what happens when you start to do something like you said, pull the Bitcoin pricing every hour, and you get a bunch of different things you do with that. Suddenly you become an oracle, and other people can use that to pull the information. You can build an oracle and have them pull the historic price feeds instead of having to pay other people to provide that to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you got to go. Let's see. Draz asks, are there some plans for AI prompts for creating in Leo posts like PeakD does? I don't know what PeakD does, but I presume the answer is yes. There's going to be a Leo chatbot just like ChatGPT or Grok, Drax, and also I guess there's going to be a Copilot type features, right, Cal?
Yeah, we're gonna have those Copilot features for premium users. So I would say the first phase is we're gonna start seeing a lot of these agents, and we'll have that agent section. And I want to see the community kind of building out a bunch of different agents. And then second phase will be the chatbot, and then I would say phase 3 is Copilot features. And those Copilot features will extend to a lot of different things, but drafts and helping you outline posts and things like that will definitely be an early use case of them. I got to jump off the mic real quick, but I'll be back in maybe 30 minutes.
All right. All right, let's see. Catch up on some of these. African Man. I was reading someone's past post, and it's been years back, and I saw Leo Finance had other tokens like Cub and Polycub. What happened to them? That was part of the old DeFi craze, and those were, I guess you could say, failed ventures. They didn't work out so well, and people were able to swap out their Cub and Polycub for a little Leo, but it was kind of during that last wave of DeFi, and that was just a phase that didn't really evolve as people thought. HiveTuber, hello, HiveTuber here. Callo introduced me to this Threadcast. I believe it's a great place to learn more about Hive. Yes. Yes. Yes, Wenandi, you're late. What did I miss? And by the way, when you say you're late to a guy, chills run up his spine. But I digress. While Cal's at his meeting, we have, he jumped out. Hive DeFi was on here and he has to speak. I don't know if he has something he wants to comment on or jump back on. If you do, send a speaker request and I'll approve it and get you on here. African Man LeoAI when Well, that's what Cal was just talking about, and you're already seeing it being implemented. Leo AI is a catchphrase. It's a catch name. It's kind of like saying Leo, but a little bit smaller. What do you mean by Leo? Are you talking LeoDex? Are you talking Hive stats? You talking threads? You talking blog posts? You talking about token? You talking about what are you talking about when you say Leo? And all are right. All are different components. So it's not like any one of them is more correct or less correct. Leo AI, what are you talking about? Recommend engine? Talking about the translator? Translator's already live. Now, it's only phase one of the translator, as Cal said. There's other phases that Spanish, Portuguese, French, whatever. So that's an AI function. It's using AI. Now, some of us are using AI agents like the AI summarizer, which I mentioned, that might possibly put together, that now anybody can use for free. And what that's doing is that is feeding the data into the Hive blockchain. And people often ask, what can we do to help Leo? Well, one of the most helpful things you can do, in my opinion, if we go from the premise data is the new oil, the more data you have, the more stuff you can do. That's just the general rule. And yes, you can get into structured data, you get into labeled data, you can get into all different types of data. But the point is, especially with a vector database, especially on a social media platform, the more you get in there, the better. So the first thing that people can do to really help out Leo is to get more data in there, get more stuff posted a day. And the AI summarizer is a great tool to use because it takes YouTube videos, or it actually takes this transcript for YouTube videos. You put the YouTube video on Leo, so now you have a thread with the YouTube video. But it takes the transcript, which is resident on Google servers, and uses AI to put an AI summary of the transcript onto Leo, which means on the Hive blockchain. Now that information is pulled into Leo's Hive vector database that it's running, that starts to coordinate all this data together. And what that does is when different aspects of Leo AI come out, let's take the Leo chatbot. The Leo chatbot comes out, you do a prompt, you ask it a question, it will pull the data from its underlying training, which is Llama from Meta, and what was put into the vector database. So this is why you can ask LeoAI, or you will be able to ask LeoAI about a post. What post got the most upvotes of mine? You ask that to Meta, it can't answer it. You ask that to the Leo chatbot, it'll answer it. Because it doesn't have it from the meta information, it will have it from pulling the information off the Hive database, the Hive blockchain, and feeding it into the vector database. So a vector database in this instance is an additional resource of information above and beyond what went into the training. Now, obviously, the next time Leo AI is trained, all that's in the vector database will be fed into the training. But of course, while that pre-training is taking place, the training, the post-training, what are people doing? They're adding more data because they're doing threads, they're uploading images, they're writing posts, they're doing all the stuff on the blockchain, they're placing upvotes, they're doing all that stuff. And they're adding more to the Hive blockchain, which again is pulled into the vector database, and is immediately available for Leo Chat or the Leo chatbot. So you just have to think of AI as an overwhelming title. Same with Leo AI, and there's different components. So Cal said there's the Copilot feature. There's the recommend engine. You got the language translator. You have the chat bot feature. Ultimately, there will be an image generator. I would presume at some point we're going to see a video generator. All this stuff will be incorporated in. All this stuff is LeoAI. But it's not like one day we have none of this stuff, the next day we got all of this stuff. It's a phase-in process. And that's what we have to keep in mind. And it'll be phased in, over the course of time based upon technical capabilities in the development, based upon cost, based upon all that stuff. Ahmad wants to know when Leo adds. Cal did mention that a few weeks ago on the AMA, and his answer was when we get some activity. Ben says, Cal, I know things. I don't know, Ben, are you quoting Cal or are you telling Cal that you know things? Maybe Cal should be asking Ben questions. Ahmed posted an interesting GIF. African man, if Leo ads would be operational in Leo, which agency or which users are responsible for determining the kind of ads to be published on in Leo? That's going to be determined by the community. What Leo Ads is doing is Leo is creating its own ad platform, similar to how Meta has their own ad platform on Facebook and their applications. And so what it's going to be is individual companies or entities can come to Leo and post their ads on Leo. The community, through state-based voting, will be able to vote what gets approved and what does not. And so that's one of the things why polls are a nice feature. And stake weight and stake weight poll voting, which hasn't been implemented yet, but there is the capability where you have people based upon their Leo power, i.e. commitment to the community, they can place their like, this is what we don't like, that type of things like Claude or ChatGPT to generate a significant amount of the code. And they're building agents by having the AI agents build the code. Now, will you be able to do that with LeoAI? Yes. Compared to Grok 3, compared to Claude, compared to Anthropic. That's where you get into what they call benchmarks on these different models. And this new model just came out, like Grok 3, evidently it does very well in math. Evidently it does very well with code. Whereas Grok 2, relative to a lot of the other models that were out there, was not very good. It was down lower on the list. So where will LeoAI, how well will they do? How well will they do? llama because llama is open source. So the ability to probably anybody else. Again, maybe outside Google, maybe they still beat them. So that's where the ability to create things, you may be able to do it out of LeoAI, but then again, you they try different ones. And sometimes you'll see them mention, well, I tried this in ChatGPT, and Claude's much better, or ChatGPT blew Claude away on this. There's certain ones that do better with some things and worse with others. The other thing is with image generators, you have like Llama has its own image generator. To me, it's kind of meh, not great. Grok, the image generator was pretty good. Grok 2, the image generator on Grok 3 is pretty amazing. In fact, I would say it rivals some of the other ones that have been out there for a while in terms of like ideogram. But does that mean it's the best AI model in the world? No. There's other specific image generators that probably beat what Grok does or what Llama does. And you move into video, which is even earlier in its evolution. Certainly, there at this point in time, there's models that blow away their competition. But again, that's looking for something like that. But if you want like an image of an office setting, a group of people around a conference table in an office, you're not getting it with that. You're better off with an ideogram or a Grok or something like that. So that's just what you have to be mindful of. Calvin Marble, he put the link TikTok again. So you have the capability of TikTok or X. And I know some people have problem with TikTok, or excuse me, with X. So listen live on TikTok. And also, Calvin Marble has it set up where the recording also shows up there. So another way to tune into Lion's Den. Ahmed said no coders will program agents soon. I think that's the case at some point. Just a matter of how long. I don't think we're there yet, but there's going to be a point where these things are very easy to set up. One of my favorite horror quotes is the line, "I saw things." One of my favorite quotes is, "I see nothing, I know nothing." Plausible deniability is a good thing. Pirate rocks. Morty said that. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Ahmed said, I've been busy, so I didn't add any last week, but I created a container post for my YouTube transcription. I figure longer summaries in one comment will be more useful than segmented summaries on threads. Yeah, I mean, it's if you are putting it in like they're with the database, and Cal and I talked about this one time about blog posts. See, what it does is to understand a vector database, what it does is it takes a piece of information, the vectoring, that's how the correlation takes place. It's based upon this numerical representation that the database creates for this piece of information. And the piece of information, as I said, it could be something simple like a thread, or it could be an entire book. And then based upon that, it starts to correlate these things together. So if you take, let's say, a full transcript, and you just take the transcript and post it as a blog post, as opposed to breaking it up as threads. When you break something up as individual threads, it assigns a number to each thread, and it correlates each thread. A blog post is taken, 1,500 words or whatever, is taken as one entity. A thread is one entity, a blog post is one entity, an entire book or a complete PDF is one entity. And obviously, this happens very quickly, and it's able to scan through the entire document, whatever it might be. It creates the vectoring or the indexing and the embedding, and it's through the indexing and embedding that this information is linked together. And it's because of that, because it's numerical, that allows for the near retrieval. And that's when vector databases started to become very popular, is because they could take large amounts of information and retrieve it quickly, which is, of course, what you want when you're looking at a chatbot, let's say, or a recommend engine. Morty, when LeoAI? He wasn't here earlier when I went on my rant. Leo isn't the best at coding, so if LeoAI is based on it, he ain't better. I think African Man meant by building an AI on Leo is if other people will use Leo weights and fine-tune their own models. The only way possible is if in Leo open sourced AI, LeoAI. Yes, that is true. But see, with open source in AI, with these models, it's a little bit misleading. Because Llama opened up, or Meta opened up Llama. It's open source. So they opened up the weightings. So you can go and see the weightings that they trained Llama on. What they don't give you is the data. So you're not getting the data. So what Ahmed said is true. Up to a point, Leo could open source LeoAI by putting the weights out there that anybody could utilize. Now, the data is not open. Part of it is because we know whatever data is on the blockchain is being fed into this. But that's not the only data, or may not be the only data over time. Because as I said, Leo has its own image server. Every image you put in Leo is in the image server. Well, what happens when that's used to train LeoAI? Somebody could take the open source LeoAI, look at the weights, copy them, but they don't have access to Leo's images. There's other data that maybe Leo is pulling from, that maybe this other entity doesn't necessarily pull from. Maybe Leo is pulling in all their Substack stuff. Maybe Leo's pulling all their Slack conversations. Maybe Leo's, who knows what other things Leo is pulling from, where they have data. Who knows what other information is look at all the LeoDex information. That's not necessarily posted to the blockchain. But all those transactions could be caught and could be captured in a Leo server. Well, now you have all those transactions that can be fed into the training. Somebody else doesn't have access to that. So that's why when you start looking at, but yeah, if Leo open source LeoAI, somebody could do the same thing. Or somebody could just take Llama, take the information from the Hive blockchain, and do it themselves. But again, they are going to have to pay for the training. They're going to have to pay for the GPUs. They're going to have to set up a vector database. They're going to have to do all that. Can I get the link to the cast for X? I just made a dedicated X for my Hive account, Hive Tuber. Ahmed posted the X space to above Hive Tuber. Ahmed said Venice's premium image models are a lot better. Okay. I haven't used the premium, so I can't speak to that. I mean, that's not surprising. And I don't, I don't blame any of these models. I mean, they give you free stuff and then there's a limit. And it's like, okay, well, you want the good stuff, you have to pay them. And there is a cost to it. So, I don't besmirch any of these entities. I went on to X today, this morning, to post an article that I did, and went into Grok and saw it was Grok 3. It's like, wow, they're giving it for free. Now, it may only be a teaser, because I thought it was only under the premium and going to cost, well, the $40 a month would be the reasoning model. So what I'm getting is not the reasoning model, which is fine. I expect that. Winanda, are we going to have AI summarizer for 3Speak videos? It would be nice to have. Will LeoAI be able to do that? That is a question for Mike, possibly. The problem you have, Winanda, is AI summarizer is not taken from the video. Actually taken from the transcript of the video, of the YouTube video. I would say the AI summarizer could be easily adapted to 3Speak videos if there are transcripts of 3Speak videos, which there are not at this point. So that's the key. AI summaries is not taken from the video itself, it's taken from the transcript. So if you put a YouTube video into the AI summarizer, if you use the summarize command on a YouTube video where the person turned off the transcription, it's not going to give you the summary, because it goes based upon the transcript. Now, I would say of all the videos on YouTube, because the default is transcription on, I would say 99% of them have a transcript. But if you get one that does not, where the person, the content creator turned it off, then you're not getting anywhere. Of course, if you post a video where there is no speaking, it's just a video of a car moving or whatever, well, you're not getting a transcript out of that either. So, those are things just to keep in mind. But to get a 3Speak, they need to have transcription. And so far up to this point, I haven't seen anything with it. That could change in the future. Ahmed, I think open weights is as close as we get to open source in the AI space. I don't disagree with you, Ahmed. I agree with you. I think you're right. But I mean, you can take a twist on that. I mean, think about this. If LeoAI was open source with the weights, and the bulk of the data comes from the Hive blockchain, well, now you have access to the data and the weights. At least the bulk of the data. You may not have all of it, but you have a good chunk of it, which we know we're not getting any of the data from Facebook or Meta. You're not getting any of the data from X. Although over the years, Google and all the others scraped, all the data they could before this became a thing. Question, will the hashtags still have to be used on in Leo after Leo AI will have been launched? On X, even Elon is fighting everybody to stop using them. Yeah, well, what the hashtags do, as I mentioned earlier, is a hashtag, and you don't even need to use a hashtag. You can start using, just put the word in. You know, food, Cajun, appetizer, chicken. You know, and the more information you put in, the more the database, the vector database, can correlate. Now, the reason why Elon is saying you can stop using hashtags is because hashtags don't. The internet is basically hyperlinks. You've heard that term. You know, that's what search engines were. Search engines didn't start to give you information. Search engines were designed to give you sites and to try to best take what you're looking for. You know, you type in Great Dane shows, you know, or dog shows, and it tries to give you what it thinks you want based upon the indexing of all the pages that Google has done over the years. The problem is they still only provide websites. Now, generative AI, this is changing everything. So on a smaller scale on a platform, how did X link information together? Through tags. So if I tag Bitcoin, you do a thread or a tweet on Bitcoin, and you put the hashtag Bitcoin, two other people post the Bitcoin price and hashtag Bitcoin. Now we got all these tweets that are assimilated and correlated because we use the Bitcoin tag. With what Elon's saying, I presume with Grok, is you don't need the tag. Because when you put the price of Bitcoin is 99,999, the fact that the word Bitcoin is in there, X's vector database picks that up. So you don't need the hashtag to provide you the information. The other thing is, what search engines do is they give you websites, right? They give you a list of websites. Unfortunately, over the years, Google, the first 5 are paid ads. But you get beyond that, you get websites. You know, and usually the first one is like Wikipedia or something like that, and then you get different websites, right? But you're still getting websites. What has happened lately with search engines? You type in something, you get a paragraph that gives you basically a summary of what it is related to that. So this is what we're seeing. You go into a Grok and you ask it a question, or you type in something on X, it gives you the answer. Yes, it will link to a bunch of web pages. Yes, it'll link to a bunch of blog posts on X. But do you really give a crap? You want the information. You don't really give a crap about the blog posts in most instances. And that's how this whole thing is changing. And for those who've listened to what I've said for the last 6 months on these broadcasts, social media as a destination is dead. It's dead. If you are building a social media platform, you are done. Social media is a pathway to getting more data to train these models to provide information to the user base. And that's exactly what Grok is doing, or X is doing with Grok. Now, doesn't mean that there's not social media activities, but every time somebody puts out a tweet or writes a blog post on X, guess what happens? That's fed into their model, and all those X tweets and all that information from X is put into the neural network and training on the next model. So now when somebody goes in and uses Grok 3 or Grok 4 or Grok 5, and it's the same thing with Llama, it's the same thing with Gemini from Google, they're all doing the same thing. It's going to be the same thing with Leo. You go and use the chatbot and you ask it questions, it's going to pull the information based upon what it was trained on. Well, we know Grok's being trained on every single thing that's posted on X. So we know that. But the more information you give in any thread, any blog post, anything like that, the better the ability of the vector database to start to correlate this information again. When will AI be capable of sufficiently answering the last question, how to reverse entropy? uh, Morty, when you line up a bunch of physicists and get them to answer it. I need AI to tell me how to uncrack an egg. Twitter is giving us Grok 3 for free and is base move. I imagine it'll be limited. It'll either be limited, Ahmed, in time where it's just a teaser, or it's the default of X, but it's not providing any of the reasoning model. It's a slimmed down version, which is fine to me. I mean, it's, eventually I figure in 6-9 months they'll have Grok 4, and then what you get in Grok 4, you'll have the reasoning involved for free, and then the super duper skill set, the thinking or whatever the hell they put on Grok 4 that makes it different, you'll have to pay for that. But I do believe these large language models at a certain point in time are just going to be commodities. They're not going to be able to charge for language models. It's going to be applications. It's going to be what do they do? What are they tied to? What do they build on top? And that's where the value is. XAI is going to be, I mean, they're going to be putting this stuff in Tesla bots. They're going to be putting this stuff in Tesla cars. So they'll be able to charge Tesla, based on like a licensing fee, just like Microsoft does. We're able to sent directly to them and provide you with the answers. So next week we will be back at the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, whatever it is in your time zone. And if, by the way, you are off a little bit, don't feel bad. Callum Marble's been an hour off for a couple years now with the Lions Den, so he can't get it right either. So with that, we will shut it down, and we will see you next week. Ciao.
Oh yes, it's another day with Caleb Marvel and the Tax Master right here on TikTok. We stream live on X. We also roll it here on TikTok. Don't forget, it's another day. Yeah, it's another day. We run the Lions Den on X. You can also engage right on uh, Hive, our accounts there on Hive. You can also, man, I need some water to drink. Holy creeps. Yeah. It's another day with the Lions Den. Are you getting it? You can also reach us on inleo.io. If you need any assistance, you can DM me. And don't forget that you can also earn. You can earn huge with your TikTok videos right on the blockchain. So if you want to know how to earn with your TikTok videos right on the blockchain, kindly DM me. I'm gonna mentor you free of charge. I'm not gonna take anything from you. It's all for the blockchain. It's all for Leo. Don't forget it's at Caleb Marvel 01 featuring Tax Master 4450 LA.